Welcome to another episode of Hope for a Godly Man. I am your host, Wanda Erinle, and I am excited, as usual, to bring another one of our fabulous guests to the stage because she has a story to tell, a journey of hope, and of faith that helps her in the waiting. So, as we prepare to listen, to join in the conversation, I want to bring to stage a beautiful sister lady, young lady. You've seen her before in our inaugural episode, and I'm so excited to have her back all by herself so we can dive in and talk more about just her. So let me bring to the stage Mrs. Ariel. We are continuing our episode 3 with our guest Ariel. And if you haven't gone back and listened, you need to make sure that you go back and listen to episode 3, part 1 with Ariel. We are jumping in right now on the conversation where we left off from the previous episode. You keep using this word situationship.
Yeah.
So everyone is clear of what you mean by that. What is
Fair.
your definition of situationship? What does that look like?
Fair. Okay. So for me, situationships are different for everybody, but for me, it was an intentional desire to be to speak exclusively with someone, but
Okay.
you're not quite ready to make that commitment. Now, had I fought a little bit more for those to be something else, they could have been,
Okay.
but I discerned that this is not where the Lord desired to have my heart in fully. And
okay.
so there was a bit of feelings are fickle, but they're real. And so I got all of the feels, the butterflies, the daydreaming, all of the things with these people, and yet it was like God's like, slowly but surely, I have something better. And so because of that, yeah, and so if I was in a different season in my life where I allowed my feelings to override his voice, it could have been a very different situation. But because God really has my heart, he's my first love, I don't want to do anything that would offend him or would be less than what he would want to give me. And so that was something also that I learned in those situations. It's like, okay, Lord, if you're not allowing this door to open, I don't want to force it open if there is something that you have that's better for me.
Okay.
And yeah, so yeah, a situationship is just, it's that weird space where you could be in a relationship, but no one really wants to fully commit, and so you're just in limbo, which is not always a good place to be.
Yeah, especially the older you get. That
right, the older
exactly be in those situations.
Exactly. Yeah, I want you to be sure.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And the more you learn what you don't want,
right,
then
100%.
then you cut those types of things out. But I understand, as you're younger, it's an exploratory type thing, right? It's a learning type thing. But I love what you said, Ariel. You said, because God is my first love. And
yes,
you always said that you heard God say, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are two things that are beautiful. And I want for the community of listeners to focus in on, because if we're hoping for a godly man and our hope is in God and in our Lord Jesus Christ, where hope will never disappoint, then we have to be seeking him to give us guidance and wisdom in these relationships, whether they're situationships, whether they're boyfriend, girlfriend, whether they're, even if they're fiance, whatever they are, we have to continue to go back to God. And I even heard you say you didn't really want to hear what the Lord was saying, but you listened, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
evaluated. So I just wanted to highlight that and applaud you as the young woman you are and how you seek
Thank you.
God. So
Thank you.
that's
I
great.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was definitely a learning curve.
Mhm.
I saw friends who were in relationships, and obviously there are like peaks and valleys, whether you're, in that boyfriend girlfriend stage, whether you're in the courtship stage where, the intention is marriage, but you're moving in that direction, but then, you're learning about each other. And so I had firsthand experiences with observing what that looks like as well. So going back to what I was saying before, um,
The preparation.
yep, the preparation part of it, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I really took time to do personal study of what I
Mhm.
was praying for. There's this common thing in the Christian community. Well, everybody's waiting. The women are waiting for their Boaz. Well, yes, yes, that's true. And Boaz really represents a lot to a lot of women, and so I even subscribed to that, that thing. And so
Mhm.
I asked the Lord. I said, okay, well, Lord, show me why this is such a topic of discussion amongst Christians, amongst
Mhm.
Christian believers. And so the revelation that I got was
Okay.
not so much on him, right? Not so much on Boaz, but on Ruth. And so as I was reading, and again, I was in a very different season in my life where I was able to receive this
Mhm.
type of revelation.
Mhm.
Um, what he showed me was Ruth was not sitting around waiting for this
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
Ruth was working.
Mhm.
And so something that the Lord told me, okay, first of all, I am such a homebody, right? I would prefer, because I'm an introvert, I prefer to be at home, to do the things that I enjoy doing, cooking and, spending time with my family, not a whole lot of fuss. But so at the time I was not really working in the traditional sense of work. And I thought it was really interesting because as the Lord continued to highlight this, Ruth was Boaz found her working,
That's
and
right.
then favored her because of the work,
Mhm.
leaving leaving wheat out for her to be able to pick up and find. And so as you're going through this, she was loyal to the people that she was loyal to, like Naomi, right?
Mhm.
um, and so she valued that relationship enough to stay with Naomi. She obeyed her wisdom, because I believe that she heard it as wisdom from God to be able to, navigate that situation. It was very hard, I'm sure, during that time,
Yeah.
because you're not secure as a woman. You weren't secure as a woman back then, and so as the Lord was revealing these things to me, the main thing that He told me was He has to find you working. So I said, okay, Lord, well, what is it that you want me to do? What
Okay.
how do you want me to work? Because at the time, I was still in school, right? So I was like, okay, I hear you, Lord, but I don't know if this is for the future me or and so we um we really kind of hashed this out together, and I started my first blog. Back then I really kind of got a taste for writing, um, and that's kind of how I started my writing journey and started to get published there. Just getting my voice out there and getting my work out there. um, and so it was really interesting to hear that. That's the thing I think that stuck with me the most, in reading the life of Ruth, but also how the Lord provided and prepared her to be found.
Mhm.
She had to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right things to be found. She wasn't seeking to be found, but she desired to be, I think. And the Lord, I think, allowed in his divine plan for Boaz to find her in that space. And it happened that he was a great man, and,
And
decided,
yeah.
yeah, and honorable, and decided to do the right thing, for his family ultimately. And, so it's admirable on both sides. But I think we put and sometimes idolize Boaz for being this person, but really the work part of it
Mm-hmm.
was Ruth being malleable and being willing to be in that space. And, God honored that.
Yeah, and receive wisdom from Naomi
A
to be in
hundred
that
percent.
space. So I
Yeah.
like that. So Ruth was teachable.
Yep.
She knew how to follow, uh, wisdom from an
Mhm.
elderly person who she honored,
Yep.
right, as a mother figure. And
Absolutely.
she was found working, doing what she needed to do, and was in the right position, as you said.
Hmm.
These are good. We're about 5 minutes from close here,
Yep.
and I always like to leave for the listener, words of wisdom, words of admonishment, something that you want to leave with the listener. At 33, you've had your journey, you've had
Yep.
your lived experiences within this space, and some of our listeners are 18, some of them will be 22, at
Sure.
different stages in their journey, figuring out what a godly man is, figuring out what their path is going to look like. And
Yep.
so I want to give you just a few minutes here to leave something with the listener. What would you like to leave with the listener to take away from this interview?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed our conversation. I had a feeling that it was going to be fruitful, and, I'm grateful for an opportunity to be here and to speak with your listeners. I think, if anything, um, it's a lesson that I'm learning still, and that is to trust God in the process.
Mhm.
Um, but also to maximize where you are. Your God is in all of our tomorrows, but he's also in our present. And so I think that if I were to leave you guys with anything, it would be to trust God in this too. Trust him for the big things, but while you're trusting him for the big things, enjoy the season that you're in. Singleness is a beautiful time um, to really seek out for yourself what God is calling you to do as an individual, and not to rush the process to just get to another destination, but really soak up all that God has for you in this season, because it will prepare you for what's next.
I love that. I love that. And, you said not to rush the process. And that's a whole nother episode that I might
Sure.
bring, multiple women on to talk about.
Yeah.
But, when I talk to so many women, if sometimes they look back and they see
Mhm.
that they rushed the process,
Yep.
and it turned out a way that they didn't want it to turn out, right? And um, I like that you said that, the single season is a good season.
Absolutely.
Paul actually says it's better to be single. Then you can give your time to the Lord. And because once you're married, your time, your focus is on your husband. Um,
100%.
so that
Yes.
was a good nugget to bring out that aligns with the word, but we just have to catch up to that, because
Yeah.
one of the reasons for this whole podcast and community is because a lot of single women don't feel like it's a good season. They're
Hmm.
not communicated to that they're in a good space. It's like, you need to figure it out. You need to find you a man. You need to do all of this. So, um,
100%.
yeah, so that's a good word, Ariel. So we're gonna close out, and
Okay.
I don't want to leave anything lingering for you. You know, you gave your nugget that you wanted to leave the audience.
Yeah.
Is anything else that you thought you wanted to say in the podcast that you can kind of throw out there? If not,
Um, well, I think it's also important to just mention that it's there is a there is such a beautiful season of singleness, and seeking God for wisdom, like we talked about, in what your singleness looks like for you is really important, because some people might use it traveling the world. Some people might, you know, have, be able to do mission work and all of these things. But God is a very individualized, personal God.
mm-hmm.
And your season of singleness really is an opportunity for you to know Him, but also get reintroduced to you in a way that allows Him to use you in new and exciting ways within your singleness. So I think it's important to mention, because social media for millennials is such a
Mm-hmm.
big thing, and so where you see all of it's really influential on sometimes how our psyche is now. Well, if they're doing this, then I should be doing this too. But the reality is, God might be calling you to something different, and that different isn't less than, it's just different.
That's right.
So I think that that's really important to also mention, is that God is really personal, and so what He wants to do through you and in you in your singleness is just as important as the next person. But you don't want to squander those things because it doesn't look like somebody else's version of singleness.
I love that. I love that. And I just want your audience to know that when we premiere Ariel's episode, we're gonna go live in the community so you can talk to her and give her some feedback. We're gonna do that with your
Awesome.
interviewees if they're willing. So thank you so much for
Thank
giving of yourself, giving of
you.
your time, and just speaking to the listener from your heart. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again soon.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Okay.
I get excited, specifically because we're able to bring so many different women at different stages to the conversation. And I love one of the closing things that Ariel said is, you have the opportunity with God, not just to get to know Him, but get to know yourself. And when I think about, the first chapter in my book, I Can Relate, um, talks about how important it is for us to know God so we can know ourselves. And the more refined we are in that relationship with Him, the better we know ourselves, the better we're able to be found as the wife for the godly man that we're trusting God for. So I want to remind you to join the community. You can find the community on Instagram and on Facebook. We're going to have a private group where we're going to be doing special premieres and conversations with our podcast hosts. So make sure that you are connected with us on Instagram and on Facebook. And we look forward to having you on the next episode of Hope for a Godly Man, because hope in the Lord will never disappoint. Thank you.
Hey, who this? I'ma pull up in a brand new, hey, with this. go hard, I gotta be.